Good afternoon, everybody. Ooh, I hope you can hear me with all of this wind, and we don't. We'll just say. Actually, somebody said to me earlier, "Sure, if it goes, it goes. We'll be grand." So I thank you very much for joining us here on this exciting panel at Backyard at Bloss. My name is Shemaine Doyle. I am the founder of a marketing agency called Brave. I do feel like I'm a little bit brave sitting here today and talking about exports and international markets, and I kind of went, geez, I don't know much about that. And then I went, oh yeah, I lived in the Middle East for 11 years, so I might know a little bit about it. So what I essentially do is I work with primarily food and drink brands, and I work as a plug-and-play marketing team, and we go into work with brands, and we work on their strategy, we work on their planning, and then we work on their execution. So a lot of the work that we would do would help the food producers and brands getting into UK and international markets. So prepping them, getting them retail ready to go and sit in front of a buyer in the UK market or any other international market. So helping them get there. So that's what I do. And so my role today, as I said, I don't know a whole lot when it comes to tariffs and everything, but I think I'm going to use that to my advantage, because I'm thinking that there's a lot of people in this audience that are probably going, God, where do I even start when it comes to going to export? What market do I go to? And of course, you can't just, Ireland, it's a domestic market, it's a great market. But as an example, Tesco have 150 stores here. And if somebody goes, yeah, we're going to go to the UK, it's 2,500 stores. So you have to be ready for that. So there's a whole different ball game when it comes outside of Ireland. So I want to have a very plain, simple conversation that you all can understand with our panel today. And we've got a fantastic panel here today. So we've Mary here, and I have to say I have a bit of love for Mary. Mary is a very, very motivational person and has done some excellent podcasts and work. She works for Cool Swan, and I'm going to let her talk all about that now in a moment. We've got Anna and Orla from Valentia Island Vermouth. We've got Lucy from Bank of Ireland, and we have Adam from Board Bia. So we're going to start the conversation. I first of all just want you to introduce each of yourselves and what you do, but also specifically, how does export play a role in what you do? So do you want to kick us off, Mary?
I will. So, Mary Sadlier, CEO of Cool Swan, premium Irish cream liqueur, and we export, I'd say, our two biggest markets are the UK and the USA. And then we export a little bit to Canada and Europe, but primarily the UK and the US.
Great.
Ola, I'll let you take this.
I'll take it for us.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So myself and Anna make Valentia Island Vermouth, and we're the first and only Irish vermouth. And we're just about exporting. So we're kind of like, some say 25 days away from export, some say 2 months away from export. But anyway, we've been on this journey for about a year. So we're just about in the US. So that's where we are.
Excellent.
My name's Lucy Ryan. I work as head of food and beverage in Bank of Ireland. So 30 years ago this year, I started selling food and drink for a lot of different companies here and abroad. Now I work with food and drink operators on behalf of the bank, really trying to help the bank understand what these operators are doing and helping industry access the bank products. But the export side of it is very much, I suppose, around ensuring that the operators who are scaling up and getting ready for exports, that yes, partly we can support them from a financing point of view, but more especially that they're ready and that they have the right tools and supports in place. So, I'm meeting a lot of operators who are, I suppose, trying to ready themselves for that journey, and there's a lot of discussion around, where they go and how they do it and trying to figure that out. And a lot of my career was in that export side, so it's good to be able to kind of share those experiences and share that knowledge.
Great.
Good afternoon, everybody. Adam Baker is my name, Global Retail Specialist in Board Bia. Our responsibility is about bringing our outstanding Irish food, drink and horticulture to the world. So that is what we do, and that's what we're very proud about what we do. But that is all built on a strong domestic base, and the likes of Bloss na HÉireann is delivering that in spades for us. So that's my role within Board Bia, and the work that we do is really about getting companies ready, providing them with the right information, and then supporting and connecting them in markets. So that's really where we try to drive value for the likes of the guys here today.
Great, fantastic. So I'm going to take us back to basics here. and to really look at the starting point. And I think just from a piece of experience that I've had, I went out to the Middle East in 2010 to work with a business, a food business out there who were importing from Ireland. And the founder at the time said to me, "Oh my God," he said, "the supermarkets, it's like Christmas Eve every night. It is jam-packed, and like we're going to just absolutely fly with this product." And I'm like, "Yes, amazing, I'll go live there, no problem." And then we got there, and what they hadn't done was the research to understand that actually it wasn't their target market at all, and that business failed. So what I'd like to ask you, basically, back to basics, what's the starting point? If somebody's sitting here today and thinking, I'm thinking of exporting, where do they start?
Well, it's, I suppose, for us, we're kind of reasonably well established now in the markets we're in, and what we did do was we shut down and we've gone deep, not wide. So now what we're going to do is just consolidate what we have, really grow it, and then look out from there. But certainly, as we're beginning to look at new markets, you got to look at regulations, you got to look at funding, you got to look at how quickly the product will get off the shelf, the selling cycles. I mean, there's a good few things you have to. For example, we were approached by the Chinese market recently. It can take up to 18 months to get into China just with regulations, paperwork. So it's things like that. So start with lots of time is what I would say. Don't expect to be, like, don't build your budgets based on today is October, I'll be in the market for Christmas. You got to give yourself plenty of time.
Excellent. And ladies?
Yeah, I think
starting point.
Time, I think, is one of the main ones. Time and money.
Yeah, money.
Yeah, I think you can't sort of underestimate how much cash you need in order to sort of get ready in loads of different ways, because you've got to sort of sign up with your export company. You've got to buy in bulk, additional bits of, wine, bottles, labels, all that sort of stuff. And with time, I mean, for us, it's taking a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been working on it about a year, really, to try and get over to the US, and we've just sort of hit another hurdle as well in this last week as well. But you've just got to keep ploughing on.
Yeah.
You've really got to sort of rally up.
Slow
your
and
spirits.
steady, and you learn as you go as
Yeah,
well.
because you come across so many hurdles, but each one just makes you a bit stronger, and you just learn more.
Yeah.
And just ask everyone, ask as many people as possible.
Yeah. Lucy, what?
Yeah, again, I would say time and researching, going in to do store visits if you can, or, there's so much research you can do online for a start, but then if you can actually get into the market and understand who are you mainly going to be competing against, what are the brands there, what do people, say, drink, what do people eat in that particular market, because the nuances of what people eat and drink and how they do it in different, not so much a market like the UK, but a different market, it's really trying to understand that in advance and knowing how you have a solution with whatever product you have. So it's taking the time to do all that, to speak to other operators, to work with Board BIA, or to work with whoever you might be getting your supports from. It's not being afraid to ask questions of other exporters and others in the business, and really just it's I suppose being cautious rather than just throwing yourself into exporting, and figuring out the supply chain, the route to market, all those kind of practicalities from an operational point of view, because that will make your life a lot easier when you do take the plunge. Yeah.
And don't get too excited by the big shiny lights of all the numbers of stores and everything's like, wow, amazing. Take your time, get to understand it, do the research, get on the ground.
Yeah.
And Adam, let us.
Yeah, well, just to respond to that, that's exactly it. So we hear that from a lot of companies that, I've got this opportunity here, I've met Joe Blogs, I've met Jane Doe, they said they might be interested in our product, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for us sometimes to have a conversation with them, because we say to them, well, what's your strategy, what's your growth trajectory, what do you understand about that market, who could buy a product there. So our response is really just, take a step back, put a strategy in place, think a bit more slowly about where you see the opportunity coming from, because sometimes that exciting opportunity might actually stretch you too far. And as the guys are saying here, just really arm yourself with information. Just really be that expert, because we're all experts on our product. We love what we've made. We're so proud about it. But in other categories, in other countries, that category might be different. It might be shopped different. So you have to arm yourself with information.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to be, I suppose I look at it from a marketing perspective and a brand perspective, you need to be very clear of what your brand position is, what makes you different to what everybody else is in that market. I mean, just going with a Me Too sort of a product is, you need to be very clear when you go in, my product is different, I've got this, that. So Before we even talk about the US and wider field, looking kind of beyond the US, the world is a big place, and automatically, brands I deal with, we look to the UK as the first kind of market. But, what other markets would you recommend? Maybe Lucy, you might take that one. What markets and challenges?
I think it's quite nuanced depending on what product you have.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking, I suppose, more broadly, there is massive opportunity within Europe, within the EU. It's a natural, we're part of that EU trading bloc. But then you have to consider, how do you get your product there? What cultural differences are there? Do you speak the language? Can you work with, say, a Board BIA office in Paris? I'm just throwing out for example. So it's not a case of just deciding, okay, for example, the Middle East could be a good option because there's 58 million or something across the 9 Gulf states. And you think, okay, great, there's a lot of expats there. Yes, maybe if your product suits that market and you feel it'll work there. And so it's really quite nuanced to the different markets. I definitely think there is still massive opportunity in the EU. It's just trying to kind of crack France or Germany, or, I've heard of operators recently partnering up with others who might have a route to market into Germany, or getting a special buy in, say, Aldi in Germany, and that can be their starting point. You never know until you fully examine, I suppose, what the benefits and unique selling points are for your product, what people eat in the potential markets or drink that you might be looking at, and how that's where kind of coming back to Adam's point on the strategy. What are your strengths? Where can you get most bang for your buck? And what are the practicalities of targeting those places? Yes, you can go as far afield as Australia. The natural progression is typically the UK, but that may not be right for everyone. So it's just really trying to analyse that and consider your own strengths, your products, and where that is most likely to be eaten and appreciated, and fill a gap within a market. So I don't think there's any one size fits all. I've tread many of the markets around the world in terms of trying to break in, or quite a few of them, and there's pros and cons with many of them, and it's just trying to figure out what suits you best in terms of your product offering.
Okay, great. And Mary, what would you think now in terms of markets and?
Yeah, it's all about the route to market, and ultimately, like for us, say, a cream liqueur, the US and the UK are the 2 biggest markets by a screaming mile. So it's obvious that you're going to be able to sell there. And then after that, I wouldn't underestimate commercials. I ultimately think that's brands live and die based on commercials. Sadly, marketing has an element to play in it, but your commercials have to be right.
Yeah.
And that's very market specific, and you have to find that out really early. Like, is there margin in the market? You talk about continental Europe, it's a really difficult market. It's really difficult unless you've got a very specific product that they're looking for. So I think once you start, you have to go out enthusiastically looking at it, and I think after that you get the answer pretty quick. I do think when you reach into a market, you realise that is for me, because the stats are there. So for us it was creams in the States and the UK, and then after that it's the hard graft starts, which you guys are going through, which is trying to get into the market. And I can't stress enough, check the commercials. Brands live and die on commercials, yeah.
Okay, very good. And I suppose as well, sometimes what a product is in your domestic market can mean something different in another market. I mean, I work with brands, and obviously Irish, and being Irish is so important in Ireland. That can be different in different markets, and you have to have a different message for other markets as well. But ladies, when thinking about export, and what made you say the US,
Yeah, well, we were talking about it when we were driving over this morning. Like, Anna's British, I'm Irish, we live in Valencia, but we have such connections, obviously, with Britain and England, and we lived in, this is where we met, in Bristol. And it would make an awful lot of sense for us to go straight to the UK with our vermouth, but we decided, as we're the first Irish vermouth, the only Irish vermouth, that we would bring it straight to the US. And we would and we're being very specific in the US as well. So we're going straight to New York City, which we understand is an absolute monster. There's 5 million people that live in Ireland. I actually don't know how many people live in New York City, but there's, 200,000 people, 200 million people in the US. There's 25 million people in Texas, kind of thing. It's a whole other kettle of fish. Yeah. So we're actually targeting cities and very specific cities, and we're going we're a tiny company. We employ 4 people full time and 2 people part time. So we are going slow and steady, and we are going to specific bars, restaurants in New York City and DC, and that is how we're kind of starting our export journey. So that's kind of we have to kind of keep it really. And we were talking earlier before we came on stage about the fact that, again, it all just boils down to people. We'll be selling to people in New York City. We'll be selling to people in DC. We are people here, but we're people in Ireland selling to people in Ireland. So yes, the conversation might be slightly different, but if you really understand and know the people who you are selling to and telling them about our vermouth and our story and everything like that, then you're ultimately just dealing with people again, kind of thing. And we can call it markets, and what you were saying about really get to know them, but it's ultimately just people. That's all we're doing again.
And sorry, I would agree that sometimes there is chemistry in terms of an operator you find, a distributor you find, something that really clicks, and if you target very specifically, that can have a whole different chemistry, whereas you might pick a completely different market and you might feel it leaves you cold. So you just, some of those things you can't anticipate and they won't be out there on paper. It's sometimes a gut feeling that you have that you think, no, this is going to work for me. I like this distributor. The commercials make sense and I'm going to go for it once you have all the other things lined up.
And I would say don't fight the market. Like for us, it's an at-home drink. I'd love to have been in the on-trade, but it's not. The on-trade don't really buy creams. So don't fight it. Don't try to reinvent the market just because you think people should be drinking it in a bar or people should be drinking it at home. Go with what evolves and opens up for you.
So in Ireland, so our vermouth sells really well as a V&T, so vermouth and tonic, and delicious as a Valencia spritz, so Ireland's answer to the spritz. But in the US, they weren't necessarily interested in that. So exactly what you were saying, Mary. They just wanted to hear about the Negronis, the Manhattans, and the Martinis. They just wanted to hear about the cocktails because that is how they drink. Kind of thing. So
so don't fight it because that's very expensive.
It's a very good point on that, because sometimes we sell out, but we don't listen to the person sitting across from you and what they're actually motivated by and what they need. So buyers, customers, people we're trying to engage with, they have particular needs that we need to meet, and if that's where the opportunity is, where we meet their needs. So it's our responsibility to know where that gap is, and that's where the opportunity. So it's not this country, this customer, this market. It's where do people need a product like ours, and where are we better than everybody else? And that's what you really need to look for.
I talk about telling the story. When you're going to a retailer, you have to obviously know the market, know who your customer is, know what is their problem, what's their and how are you going to meet that problem and solve it and help them. So let's talk about that big bold country called the US. Mary, I'm going to start with you because I think 70% of your business is US, and I think just to understand what has the US meant for you in terms of your business.
It's a fabulous market. They're great consumers. I mean, they have money you could only dream of. They are really, when they have money, they really have money. The one thing that's particularly good about the US is there's a lot of price elasticity in it. Here, because of the supermarkets, the big supermarkets, and people price against them. So if you're in Tesco, same in the UK, if you're in Tesco or Sainsbury's, they're watching the price, so you're much tighter on price. In the States, you can have one liquor store next to the other one could be selling at double the price, and it doesn't seem to enter into their consciousness when they're buying. So in that regard, it's a great market. It really is. There's some states, so we changed our model, and this comes with time, but it's what we've done here too. We went with the retailers. That just worked for us. And we did the same in the US. So we're opening more and more states because we're now listed with Total Wines, Trader Joe's. So we're going into more and more states, but through the retailers. And that's just turned out to be a useful route for us. It took 10 years to find it. just saying. But because that's back to the strategy bit, Dwight Eisenhower had a great expression where he said, it's not the plan, it's the planning.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because you can have the best plan in the world, but I can tell you one thing, once you put your foot into the market, that plan is going to go up in fire. But if you've done your planning, you've hit the on-trade instead of the off-trade. I hit the off-trade, not the on-trade. So the on-trade is where you drink it on premise, the off-trade is where you drink it as off-sales, you take it home. So I think that's the key. I think get the really big picture stuff right. Like, don't be selling vermouth to the AA. It's like, don't be selling Cool Swan to minors. It's get the really big stuff right, and then just absolutely expect to meet one obstacle after another, because it is littered with them, absolutely littered with them. And the US, one of the hardest things I think we found in the US was, yes, ma'am, we'd love to support you. And they have no intention of doing it. The English market is way better. They'll tell you no, and if they say yes, you're in. They will help you and they will build the pathways for you. In the US, it's very hard to get a no. In the US, really hard to get a no. And a no, everybody wants a no. A quick no. Otherwise, it's a slow yes. It's death by 1,000 lashes commercially. But no, it's a great market. Love it. Just love it. Was in Colorado last week. We'll be in Dallas next week. So yeah, it's a great market.
But you have to be resilient to get into that market.
Tough as a jockeys. I'm telling you, it's and the whole yes, ma'am. It's going great, and don't worry about the size of the population. And the other thing too is what we've learned is don't look at the 9 o'clock news. What goes on the media and what goes on the ground are, like, if they were any further apart, you're on two different planets. It's just extraordinary. So you got to buckle down and go your path. Stick with your planning, and your planning will always pay off. I had the great fortune of meeting a guy called Paddy Masterson many years ago, and he was he ended up being the president of UCD. And I remember him telling a story that he had just taken over as president of UCD, and government cut all the money for education, and they had the most extraordinary plan to expand UCD and bring it back on campus. It was all over Dublin City. And he went into the meeting the following day, and everybody was like, oh my God, the money's gone, what are we going to do? And I thought this was brilliant. He said, what was our plan? I said, well, the plan was to expand. And is the plan still relevant? Everybody's like, yeah. Well, he said, we'll find the money somewhere. Yeah. And that's back to the planning. If it's right to go into the States, go into the States. Expect to, like, we're still kicked. Like, I got 3 kicks in the head this morning while I was standing at our stand. One of them was one of our supermarkets put our price out wrong for Christmas. You're like, what'd you do that for? So you're texting and trying to find people. Nobody picks up the phone. Anyway, we got it solved. But that's your daily, you know what it's like. Yeah. That's your daily beat. Now, if you're going to take it personally, you're in deep trouble. So the point being is, put on the armour.
Yeah.
Get up and go for battle. And the thing is, if you expect the worst, which is a terrible thing to say, you usually get the best. Because people are very good. People are very good.
Yeah, but, excellent. I was saying this to you earlier when I was in the Middle East like that. We constantly, a load would be delivered in and there'd be problems. And I felt like we were jockeys because we were just constantly jumping over the hurdles. Yes. So you just need to be strong enough to face them. Adam, can you tell us from your perspective from Board BIA, what support or how do you help businesses who want to go into the US, or what perspective do you take from there?
We really believe in the importance of information, the importance of confidence in your decisions when you're going into a market like that. Listen, it's huge, it's expensive, it's risky. It's the making or breaking of businesses at certain points in their stage and journey. So we believe that our role is to make sure they have as much information as possible. Yeah. So they're clear on the costs of business, how to do business. They're clear on good connections. They're clear on good partners we hope to work with. And they really are going in with their eyes open, because if you're not, you're going to get lots of kickbacks and there's going to be lots of difficulties. But the second area that I think that we are strong in, and that hopefully our colleagues here will be able to support us on, is just the importance of the network. It's a huge market. We need to learn from each other. We need to learn from people here in the room about some of the things that went well, some of the things that didn't go well, and how we can improve for the people coming in behind us. Because if we don't pass that on, we're not going to be as resilient in the future. So our role is really about the information, the support that we can provide to companies, but also providing those opportunities to network and connect among each other as well.
Okay. And Lucy, from your perspective, how do you support businesses who turn up and say, I want to go to the US tomorrow or other markets?
Well, look, it doesn't just happen overnight, as we've alluded to earlier. So, I mean, I suppose there are some first of all, I'd say before you even come to a bank, or maybe you're, already a bank customer, whatever bank it is, you make sure you go to the state bodies such as Board BIA and Leo or Udaros or whoever you tend to be, typically, or Enterprise Ireland, whoever you're getting your supports from, and you make sure you get every possible support and help, whether it be researching in their library or the funds that they will potentially give you. So I would just say, remember that before and then I suppose what I would say, if I'm advising any customer I meet or any operator, make sure your core is solid in Ireland and in your home market, because you're going to need a lot of bandwidth, mental energy, and the commercials, as Mary said, need to be right before you're kind of going beyond into the export market. And then there's lots of areas that I suppose are important to consider, things like exchange rate variances, and I mean there's been quite a shift in the dollar one recently, which is impacting, because a lot of the contracts would be in dollars. So those kind of things, hedging in terms of dollars, so many different. Also, we would provide facilities like invoice discounting, where from a cash flow point of view, a retailer won't pay you for a month or two. So there's a facility where you can be paid most of the invoice up front or in the early days, and then you get the balance kind of in 30 or 60 days. So those kind of facilities that will specifically help. But most often it's what we're doing to support is actually a natural progression in terms of expansion. So we're seeing things like increased automation, we're seeing things like expansion of the facility, or we provide stocking loans because, as Anna said, you need more stock, you need more ingredients, you need more bottles. So it's about, I suppose, the bank understands that, and then it's trying to kind of, do your business case and go in and say, well, this is part of my export plan. So it's typically a natural progression. It's not as if we're specifically going in saying, okay, they're going to start exporting and therefore they need whatever. It's part of usually the natural journey, but make sure you're solid in your market first, your numbers are good, the commercials are right, as Mary said, before you take
build
that
your foundations.
Build your foundation,
get
definitely.
The foundations right. Okay, we'll have a quick moment to talk about tariffs, because that's what was one of the things. So I'm just going to ask, Mary has a really good story, because I think from somebody who's been there when it came to tariffs, I think it was 2019. So I think I'd like to just for you to relay this story, because I thought it was brilliant. And you've been there, kind of done that, and what have you learned? But you woke up in 2019, I think.
2018. It's September and 6:30, and I heard the news, and it was there's new duties, because Trump was president then. There's new duties, and they're going on. Irish whiskey has been exempt, but Irish cream liqueurs are going to be taxed. I was like, excuse me? So I'd never get out of bed so fast. I'll never forget it, because bizarrely, we had all our shipments for Christmas should have been in New York, but they got bumped in Rotterdam.
Oh, no.
So we got delayed by 3 weeks. So we actually had 2 containers on the sea, and they were within 48 hours of landing in New York. And the problem with duties up until this year is typically they give you the duty with a few hours to go so that you're not stockpiling. So they like to announce, you'll see in the budget next week, if duties come in, you'll have till midnight to fill your car with diesel, but it needs to be quite an instant tax. So 48 hours to raise 80 grand. And until the day I die, I don't know how we did it. And that actually goes back to the same point. You've got to start on the basis that what we're doing is impossible. Like trying to get a bottle from Valencia to New York and try to get people to drink it. Like, there's more obstacles than there are pathways, kind of. But they open up. They really do open up. And you said it earlier, it's you have to ask everybody. So I rang everybody. I rang Enterprise Ireland. I'm still waiting for them to ring me back. Now, to be fair to Enterprise Ireland, there was nothing they could have done, to be fair. But a girl did say to me, I'll get somebody to ring you. And so I'm still waiting. But in the end, so we rang everybody. And then in the end, somebody will always have an answer. They'll always put you in a direction. But you've got to have the determination and just pure will. Yeah, it's belief to keep going. So that was our story. So these tariffs were even worse, because the lead-in time was like death with 1,000 lashes. And he could still move up the tariffs. We've currently got product on the sea, and he could move the tariffs tomorrow morning. He could block Irish products coming in. I don't know what they're going to do. It's not a normal setup. But we'll keep persevering. We've loads of customers out there. And the good news is they're drinking. They're drinking. He's driven them all to drink. So there's a silver lining on every cloud.
Lucy, quickly, just how do brands prepare for something like this, that all of a sudden they have to, if something like...
They can't really. I mean, to follow on from Mary's point, you can only control, I mean, we've had so many, I won't even name all the things that have been happening in the last few years because we all know those challenges. And the latest one being further geopolitical uncertainty and the tariffs. But you can only control certain elements of what you're doing. I mean, having a laser focus on cost control and working out your commercials is really essential, so that if there is something unforeseen, you're at least in a good place, a solid place. But if something untoward happens or something sudden happens, you just have to then decide, okay, I need a price increase.
Yeah.
I need to go to the retailer, or I need to approach my customers and tell them that, and be ready for that.
Yeah.
Because over the last few years, many operators didn't go fast enough to pass on price increases, and they had big struggles as a result. Now I know some of those things were unanticipated, so I think it's just being solid with your commercials and making sure, ideally over time, you're making yourself as sustainable and self-sufficient as possible, whether it be green energy or all those things that you should be trying to bring into the mix, so that you're not as dependent on external forces. But
you can't control it.
No, you can't control some of those things.
And ladies, Anna, maybe when you heard about the tariffs, how did it impact your thoughts about going to the US? Did you just?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a shock, but I think, you know, we had a pretty solid plan about what we wanted to do, and as soon as it sort of happened, you know, Bord Bia, Enterprise Island, they were already, you know, there was emergency meetings already being sort of brought already. So, yeah, I think. Yeah, I suppose you've just got to keep on with the plan, factor it into your commercials. You know, I think we're in a sort of tariff land now.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can't sort of. I think 15% is probably a good outcome. Maybe it could be way worse. You know, there's other markets where it could be 100% or 150%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So just keep your plan tight.
Have that plan ready.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, speak to your importers, distributors, you know, to maybe share some of the cost as well, that type of thing, I think.
Okay, have a time for one more question. One quick last piece of advice. That the topic was, should I stay or should I go? So I'm asking each of you quickly, if a founder or business owner came up and said, should I stay or should I go? I'm thinking to go. Quick fire.
If you've got a good base here, okay, you're confident that you're going to be able to answer the question, how are you getting on at home?
Yeah.
Then start considering it and put a strong strategy in place. Once you have that measured thinking, once you have that structure, then it's time to start considering elsewhere. But make sure you have that foundation.
Great. Lucy?
I would say yes, you should stay, echoing Adam's points, just carefully and in a considered way. But my other advice would be generally diversify as best as you can. Don't put all your eggs in one basket generally, whether it be at home or abroad.
Yeah. Okay.
Admittedly, you don't want to spread yourself too thinly, but just don't be overly reliant on any one customer or any one market. That's, I think, my adage anyway.
Great.
I think absolutely go. You know, like have the crack, have the adventure. You know, like we're only here once. You've already created something that you love. Like, why not bring it to everyone and show it off to them? You know, kind of thing, in a measured and, like, you know, considered way, obviously. But, like, you know, like, bring it to us all. You know, let us all taste the lovely thing that we did and go and have fun. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
I obviously agree with that.
And Mary, one piece of
Absolutely, yeah, go. But go deep, not wide. Make sure you go into the channel, make it work, and then begin to spread out. But don't be afraid of going deep. Like, go big, but go deep.
Yeah. And what is it you like to say? Stay ignorant, stay curious?
Yeah, I've learned over the years that staying ignorant, staying curious, but moving forward is, because ignorant is one of the things that nearly crippled us at the start. Was everybody has advice for you, and it's all really well intentioned, but you're trying to put it over your experience, and no two people's experiences are the same. But curiosity is where you start forming the questions to get the information to help you make your decision, and just never stop. Honestly, if you lie down under it, it will squash you. It will squash you. And if you keep moving, I think we're actually programmed as humans to help, to answer questions for each other. So I can answer your question, but I can't help you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that? It's like if I dip into your life and to your business and I start trying to tinker with it, you're going to throw me out in jig time. However, if you come to me and say, I have a shortfall in my P&L of this. I can't increase my prices with super value. I have a question. How do I survive this? I can help you because you know what you're looking for. So I really would encourage people form the question, because it's the question will save your business, and your business will be saved. We have hit several walls. Like we had 3 children in the back of the car one time. Our 3, by the way, I didn't nab them from somewhere, but we had our 3 girls in the back of the car, and they were very little, and we had just lost a contract, and we had no money in the bank, and we owed so much money, and we're still here today, and I still don't know how we did it. It's just pure. I mean, you have the exact same experience, I'd say. It's just weird, isn't it? Like, you get up every day. We count how many steps we go back. So you go forward 6. We used to go back 5, and now we're at least going forward 6, and we're going back maybe a half step.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you all so much. We're going to open the floor now to some questions, if anybody has any questions. No?
Hi guys, great session. I'm Annie Dunn. Know many of you already. I run a business called The Art of Great Food. And we had a great session earlier about collaboration and the power of collaboration. And I'm sure, probably for the brands in particular on stage, what collaborations have helped you through the journey that you've been on in terms of export?
So we did. Actually, Fierce Milder here as well. Hello, Fierce Mild.
Hi, Fargo.
So we did a course called Foodworks that they're on at the moment, and that was with Enterprise Ireland, Board Bia and Teagasc. And with that, we were on the course with Grania from Graw Chocolates. We were with anyway, loads of us that are here. And I think those kind of courses are amazing because of the remain curious, continues to know that you haven't a clue, like all this kind of stuff, and you stay together and you stay very connected. So I think that kind of I think stay very connected to all of the people in our industry, ultimately our gang doing the same kind of thing, and then you can ask the questions, you will get help, you will get support.
Propping each other up.
Yeah.
I think everyone is just giving everyone like a good pushover.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And being here as well, like the support that's around here today. And
Exactly. Yeah. So these kind of things.
Yep. Anybody else?
Fargo.
Fergal from Fair Smiles, thanks for the intro. Just a question on export markets. We're talking about the US a lot, and there was a little mention Adam had of the EU, and Lucy said it as well, like it's an open market. Why do you feel, apart from language, are we not exploring those markets more? It seems like the US is a big factor. So it's kind of to all of you.
Because it's really, really tough. I don't want to say they're very traditional. They're not very open to... Now, depend on your exports. Like beef and some of them go in quite easy. But drink and alcohol we have found really difficult. So we've a really good distributor in Germany. But you don't know where your brand is. They don't share. They don't tell you where your product is. They don't... It's very... They just do business differently, if I can say it that way. Now, if you can figure out and enjoy doing business that way, but the UK market and the US market are just like... Even the Chinese market opens up way faster than Europe. It would be our experience. Now, I know some of the whiskey guys have gone in, but Irish whiskey, when we took over Cool Swan, Irish whiskey was on its arse. And within about 6 years, it suddenly became the liquid everybody wanted. And Europe began to open up. So sometimes you can just get a lucky bounce. But I don't know where they are on, say, kombucha or RTDs, but certainly on cream liqueurs, they're really traditional. You don't get the support that you would get in the UK. And they don't have, their retailers, Carrefour and those, they're savage. Big German retailers, you think Tesco's bad. These boys... it's really difficult commercially to do business. But I would say overall, they just do business very differently to what we'd be used to.
I might just come in there and just say that, it really does depend on your product, your category, and the opportunity. So I know we talked quite a lot about the US today, But if you just get on a plane, go to a market, read some board beer reports, go to a trade show, get talking to a couple of people, that's when you start really understanding where the opportunity is. And well, we might mention US today, it could be a particular customer in a particular country.
But Adam, as a general rule, Europe doesn't open up as well to Irish brands.
But the likes of the Netherlands that we broke into when I worked for Be Free Foods, that was actually quite easy, relatively. Now, you had to find a good distributor and you had to kind of get an audience in front of Albertine, which has 35% of the market, or people who have maybe a connection through distribution in Germany and other. I think it varies greatly depending on your product. When I worked for Guinness Italia, we were selling more Harp than anything. Everyone thought, oh, you sell loads of Guinness. No, nobody wants to drink Guinness in Italy. So I think it depends very much on what you're selling and what they drink and their habits and customs and knowing the language.
You need a big balance sheet, I think, taken on Europe. You need a lot.
And each market is probably very, very different.
Yeah, they're very
too.
different.
Yeah.
They just do business differently. It's the best way to explain it is, and they're very tight with information. So it's really hard to build a brand on continental Europe because you don't know where your brand is 90% of the time.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that it? Great.
Thanks,
you all.
Jermaine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, well done.